She was a waitress at the only joint in town. She had a reputation as a good around down Main Street after midnight.
Howdy, Ags. AP here from the tailgate. All Aggie football, all the time. Brought to you by Howdy Enterprises, your one source for waste management and sanitation, Aggie owned and operated. First things first, some of you guys might be noticing that this is sort of a new setup. We've got some video going on. The podcast is going to be available on YouTube going forward. I also want to let you guys know, just email us at agstailgate@gmail.com if you've got any comments or want to talk shit about Stroud or Corey. That's the right place to do it. All right. So I hope to hear from you guys. Stroud, Corey, what's going on, fellas?
Not a lot. Ready to do this first YouTube live video. Well, not live, I guess, recorded podcast. Something we could try out.
Stroud, I'm getting a real clear picture of your forehead at the moment. I love it.
You're welcome.
That is a good-looking forehead.
That is an amazing forehead.
You're jealous of hair all the way around.
I am jealous. You have hair. That's why I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's start off with a couple of non-football news and notes today. Just a couple of things. One thing, Gary Blair coaching his final home game as the A&M women's basketball coach at A&M. They're playing South Carolina, who's number one in the country. They've got one other game left this season against Georgia. Not their best year this year, to say the least. I think they're below 500 in conference. But, man, Gary Blair is a Hall of Famer when it comes to coaches at A&M, right? I mean, he's probably one of the best that's ever done it. Guys, any thoughts on Gary Blair?
Man, you think about Gary Blair, you think, R.C. Slocum, the greats, the ones that have been here, made a career out of being Aggies. Not just the guys that have been here for like 2 or 3 years. I'm talking, you name stuff after him. They named the basketball court after him. The players come back and talk about him.
He needs a statue.
It's not a whole lot you can say bad about Gary Blair. I mean, he's like the Von Miller. You know what I'm saying? Everything is Aggie to him. Everything is Aggie. He's a great ambassador for the school.
Stroud, he was here for 19 seasons. One season the tournament got canceled because of COVID. But in 18 seasons where they had some sort of postseason, he made the tournament 15 times. What do you think about that, buddy?
I think it's a hell of an example. Wish he had a son so he could coach the men's team. But this is what we've had as far as basketball goes. After Billy and AC left on the men's side, the only thing we've had to cheer about on the basketball side has been what Gary's been doing with the women. Much less when he won the national championship. That season was amazing. I mean, he's just a great, like Corey said, he's a great ambassador. Hopefully he'll stay on and do some stuff kind of like RC did. But it's going to be the guy that comes in or the lady that comes in after him has got one hell of a pair of shoes to fill to try to do what he's pulled off.
No, that's absolutely correct. The 2011 national championship won. In a time in women's college basketball where the only teams that could compete were Tennessee and Connecticut, right? I mean, they came out of nowhere. As a matter of fact, when he took over the program, since 1974, the program had been to the postseason 3 times, and he didn't make the postseason his first season, but he was in the NIT in season 2, and pretty much ever since, other than probably this year, which I don't think they'll make it, but. Very impressive what he's done with a program that came from nowhere. Hall of Famer in my book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Men's basketball obviously continuing to struggle some, but they did get a win against Georgia yesterday. Quentin Jackson goes perfect from the field, man. 11 for 11 from the field, that including 3 for 3 from three-point range. Puts up 31 points. He did miss a free throw, though, 6 of 7. But the Aggies get a win over Georgia. 3 games left. They're 6-9 in the conference, 17-11 overall. Any chance at NIT? Any chance at the tournament? What would they have to do?
They have to win a few more games to even get considered for the NIT. For the tournament, they got to win the SEC tournament.
Probably so.
Yeah, I mean, after a strong start, they've really fizzled out, and seat's getting pretty warm for Buzz. I'll be honest with you. Hasn't done a whole lot in his 3 years here. Hadn't had a lot to work with. COVID didn't help him. His recruiting classes have been He lost, 9 players last year?
They left him a bare cupboard, right? I mean, I think a couple of years before he got here, they had like the 100th ranked recruiting class.
Right.
Nobody was doing him any favors on that one.
Yeah.
Stroud, what do you think? This basketball team stand a chance to make any postseason tournament?
I mean, I think if they can win 2 out of the next 3, that'll be enough to get to NIT. Like Corey said, the only chance tournament, you got to win that SEC. We've never been able to do that ever in the history of men's basketball. So I don't expect that. And I don't know about his style and what's going on with his coaching, except that basically I think we replaced every 9 out of 10 players from last year. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous the amount of people that left. You got that kid from Duke, obviously. But that was a good pickup, but we haven't really done anything with them. So it just seems like it's been a slow, steady decline of bad basketball. Gillespie, small run with Turgeon, and then he left for Maryland, and it's just been kind of going down this road ever since. And
I'd take Billy G back right now for sure.
Well, he's not far. I mean, he's just down the road at Tarleton. But
winning at Tarleton.
Yeah, I mean, he's no different. He's still the same dude. I mean, when he left here, he was like Slocum. He was a god at that point because he was doing things for men's basketball that hadn't been done in over 20 years.
I don't love the name Kentucky, and that's hard to turn down, though.
Yeah. But they turned him down in 2 seasons. They turned him down pretty fast themselves. They weren't scared.
Yeah, absolutely. The baseball team gets off to a good start at 4-0. They sweep Lamar. They sweep Fordham and then take Lamar here in the midweek. They had a walk-off on Sunday with a 2-run home run to win that one. So pretty good start there for them. They'll get the opportunity to show whether they're any good or not. Softball team's off to an 11-0 start after the Sunday win over Kansas. This weekend they get number 11 Oklahoma State, so we'll see if they're actually any good. There was an interesting thing, and this is somewhat related to Aggie football, so we'll sort of move into that area. But Myles Garrett plays in the NBA All-Star Weekend Celebrity Game. First of all, I didn't even realize it was NBA All-Star Weekend.
Yeah,
let me just say that.
Didn't either.
I did not watch 1 second of the NBA All-Star Game because it's not really basketball.
No.
But afterwards, I saw some highlights of old Myles. Homeboy had some jams. I mean, dude is athletic.
He is just jacked up, dude. That guy is jacked. I didn't realize he was that jacked up. I mean, his arms are huge, and the guy is swole. How tall is Myles Garrett? 6'3", 6'4"? I don't even know. 6'5", 6'6"?
6'5". But, that's a 300-pound man basically slamming the basketball down.
Dude, he's a freak looking at him.
It's as if Stroud could get up there.
Yeah. Hey, Stroud's got ups.
Next year, we'll be down where we can get up.
Anyway, impressive showing by the former number 1 pick, just an Aggie. So,
I'll tell you this. I thought Garrett played well. I did actually. I'm not a big fan of the NBA or much less what they do, but I did watch the actual All-Star game, and I tell you what, I do like Seth Curry. The dude went off. I mean, and it was. Yeah. I got to watch it live, and it was fun. He was the biggest sensation of the whole weekend because the slam dunk contest was like a trailer fire inside of a plane wreck. It was horrible. It was a dumpster fire of ignorance. It was bad dunk after bad dunk. I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got up during the middle of it and just walked out. I mean, but dude, Curry went off. It was pretty sick to see him get those 50. But
16 3-point games and 3-point shots made in an All-Star game. That's impressive.
I think the record was 9 before. He almost doubled the record. So he went off.
I mean, there's no defense. All it is, it's just an exhibition. They don't even.
No.
Nobody's trying.
No, but
I mean,
the
it's
shots
just,
he was taking, I mean, right inside half court, I mean, 5, 6, 7 feet behind 3-point line. I mean, there
It's
wasn't
always
anybody
been
guarding
that
impressive.
him.
was impressive. That was very impressive, Josh.
But it's like his pregame warm up that he does when he runs around out there like he's a 12-year-old, just throwing up shots. And I mean, he knew they were going in. He just turned around, start running back. Looking at old boy from Oklahoma, what was that rookie? I guess it's his sophomore season. Man, I can't think of what that kid is. Where he plays for Atlanta. What is that kid's name?
Oh,
He
the guy
was,
from Oklahoma. The guy from
yeah,
Oklahoma you're talking about?
yeah,
Trey Jones or Trey? What
yeah,
is his name? Todd? I can't
yeah.
remember.
Trey
his name.
Young.
Trey Young, yeah.
So
Young should shake his head
we're
laughing.
not
It's hilarious.
gonna sit here and break down the All-Star game at this point.
I already broke it. You're welcome.
I
It is
feel like
broken
we've got
down.
way too much information as it is.
You're
I
welcome.
do have some. There's not much going on in the world of Aggie football, but they are having workouts.
We get another
having
5-star?
You know, the guys are running, the guys are lifting, and this week there a little bit of hype came out from those workouts.
I saw this.
Apparently, Evan Stewart, Denver Harris, and Haynes King all got clocked. And Harris and King were running a smooth 22.1 miles per hour. That's pretty fast. And Evan Stewart was going 22.3. I mean, smoking.
Harris, which is Harris? What position is he playing?
He's the freshman cornerback that just came on campus.
Goodness gracious!
Yeah, pretty impressive when your quarterback's in the mix as one of your fastest guys. But man, that's a lot of speed. And Evan Stewart, another freshman now at wide receiver too. So, you know, they've got adding some speed on both sides of the ball there. There was a rumor, this is not official, but there was a rumor that Demas was clocked over 23 miles an hour. Over 23 miles an hour.
Man, I don't care how fast you are. If you can't catch the ball, it doesn't matter. I don't give a damn.
That's very true.
Where's Oddchain on this? Isn't he supposed to be the fastest guy on the team?
He's running track.
Yeah. He's supposed to be doing like 24, 25 an hour.
Yeah,
that's pretty fast, man. That's moving. I mean, you could do some damage to somebody. You can do some damage to yourself if you fall it going that fast.
Yeah, you know? Don't hit something.
I mean, I got my scooter out there going 15 miles an hour. I'm afraid to fall off of.
Oh yeah, man! Don't hit something.
Miles an hour. Jesus!
Throw like one of those water coolers in front of them as they're running. See what happens.
Yeah, they could. I mean, they can get a ticket some places on campus going that fast.
Anyway, exciting to see those guys running and exciting to see the speed that's coming out of camp and stuff like that, because obviously it's something that folks around Aggie Land have said we've been lacking for a while. Apparently not anymore. All right, so fellas, today we're going to focus in more on the position battles going on that we expect to go on here in spring ball once they start. Is that next week? Next week or the week after? March the 9th maybe? Anyway, once they start here, the practices, there's going to be some pretty important position battles. And let's start on offense. Today we'll talk a little bit about the position battles on offense, and then next week we can go through some of the position battles on defense. First, let's go through the guys that we think are established starters, right? And for offense, there's not a lot of them. Anaya Smith, obviously one of those guys. A-Chain, one of those guys. And then 3 guys on the line, Fothery, Foster, and Robinson, right? So 5 out of the 11 positions I think are pretty well set. So let's talk about the rest of them. And we're going to start where everybody always wants to start, the quarterback position. And we've talked about this a lot. You know, for our sakes, I think, you know, let's talk more King versus Johnson here. I guess, you know, Corey's very excited about the freshman. So are the folks at Texas Hags. I don't think the guy's going to get the start. I don't think he's going to know the playbook well enough to get the start. But I do think the other 2 guys are going to battle it out. And so, Stroud, why don't you get us started? What do you expect in this battle?
Well, I expect Johnson to come out, take the starting position. He's got all the experience, 16 games against SEC teams. Came back, did a pretty good little 1-2 on our face last year at the end of the season. He's got the size. He's going to stand in that pocket. I mean, I'm going with experience. It's something we didn't have at all last year. It's something that neither one of these other kids have right now besides him. I don't think he would have come to A&M if he didn't think that he had a fair shot at getting in there. So, I mean, for me, I've got to see Johnson get in there and just get destroyed or just make bad plays. But for me, it just seems like a no doubter that Johnson's going to be the one that's going to win this position. He's going to be the one that's going to lead us out and get us going.
That's impressive. You say no doubter. Corey?
Man, honestly, quarterback position, I think, is going to really – the offensive line is going to dictate the quarterback position. If the offensive line is horrible, we're going to put an athletic quarterback back there that can run. That's going to be Haynes King. If the line's going to give him time, I think Johnson, that bodes well for Johnson because Johnson's not going to get away from much. And, I mean, maybe he didn't have the best lines at LSU, but what we had here last year, he definitely couldn't sit in the pocket very long.
No, Corey,
so,
that's
I mean,
a great
right
point.
now, that's what I'm seeing. I mean, talent-wise, they both got talent. Johnson, yeah, he's put up stats. He's got experience, but they're both still young guys. We have talent out there. It's just if you haven't got an offensive line to block for them, they're going to be – neither one's going to be any good.
No, and Corey, that's a great point that the offensive line is definitely going to play a factor in this decision-making. But I'll say this. The experience for Johnson, I do think, is a big plus for this quarterback room in general. I just think Haynes King's the better quarterback. I think he's the better quarterback. I think he's the better athlete. I think he's won this job once before. I think he knows the playbook better. And ultimately, he hadn't played a lot. He played against Kent State last year, right? He had one game and 2 series, I think, against Colorado, 2 3-and-outs against Colorado before he got hurt. But in that one game against Kent State, he had 3 picks. But I went back and watched. Mm-hmm. And the other things that he had, he had explosive plays. And I know it's Kent State. But what I mean, and what I really saw that was more important is that he was aggressive with the football. And he was decisive. And when he saw it, he threw it. Or when he decided to get out of the pocket, he'd go, And I'm excited about his big playability. He had a huge throw to Chapman in that game, 53 yards or something like that, right? I mean, some of the biggest plays of the season right off the bat in game 1. Now, and that's what I'm excited to see from this offense and from Haynes in general.
Real quick about that. Okay, Haynes is coming off an injury.
Yeah.
You think he's going to be shy to take off with the ball again? I mean, you're coming off an injury. I mean, some people can call that a career. You get hurt like that.
No, that's a great point, and the mental part's going to have to be there, right? Because, some folks are very iffy when they're coming off injury. Right. Apparently, he's already running full speed ahead. So according to the things that they're saying coming out of workouts, I mean, he's been moving pretty well since they started to prepare for the bowl game. So it sounds like, the injury's behind him, but there's nothing like a rush to make you clam up a little bit when it comes to that.
Right.
Stroud, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think the only thing he's got going for him is going to be the playbook. I mean, that definitely knows he's been sitting there for over 2 years. He definitely knows the playbook. I mean, and I know he had some explosive plays last year, but I think those were encouraged by fear and running for your life with that amazing offensive line that we had. So I don't know how much I put into that, much less playing a Division IV school like Kent State, where athlete to athlete, we stand head and shoulders above. So, I mean, I saw what Johnson did with a subpar offensive line with our guys, our defensive studs, maybe the best defensive line we've ever had, annihilating them and standing in the pocket and finding a way to win the game. And that said a lot to me.
I'll tell you this, and this is where I think you're getting this thing confused, because you saw Johnson play against Texas A&M in a game in which, you're right, we didn't play well. And our secondary looked horrible, and there was guys wide open all over the field. And you saw him play that one game, which was probably his best game of the season, 100%. But he also lost his job during the season last year, I think like twice. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even the starter at the beginning of the year. Brennan, who's going to be the starter again next year, won the job last year, right? So, he couldn't even beat out Miles Brennan. So, I don't know. If you
I'll
ask
tell you
me,
this. If this podcasting doesn't work for you, stand-up comedy will, because the shit that you're saying, it's just straight up hilarious. I mean, it's just like off the cuff. Just I want to say whatever I want to, even if there's no proof. I'm just going to say what I want to. I mean, the
hey,
guys that are beating
those are
against aren't even at
facts.
the school
Those are
either.
facts. Those are
That guy's
facts.
not even at the school. The other guy went against is gone too. So there's no doubt in my mind he would have been the starter at LSU. He didn't want to mess with all the ignorance going on over there. He wants a chance to try to do something different. That's why he came over. There's no way he would have left that school with a starting position to come to A&M if he did not have a true opportunity and any chance of sitting on that bench.
I'm not saying he doesn't have a chance, and I'm not saying it's not going to be an open competition. I'm saying he's going to lose it.
Well, I tell you what, I have got no problem with putting money down, actually writing down what our bets are this year, because I have no doubt in my mind, and I'll be glad to put a Hunsky up against Johnson getting the starting nod versus King.
You may want to pay Corey the $100 you owe him before you start making bets over here, buddy.
Hey, I like that.
Yeah. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, shit. There it is. Damn it. You brought it up.
No, you just got to send it to me. I totally forgot about that. I got you.
Yeah. No, but look, and honestly, look, this is going to be, I do think it's going to be a competition, and I do think that the best guy wins.
No, Wegman's the best guy, so he's not going to win because he's a freshman.
That's probably true.
But go ahead.
But the best guy right now probably wins this competition, and I think it's going to be Haynes King. But I'm not saying that Johnson doesn't have a chance. I don't think he's as good, period. Physically, I don't think he's got anywhere near the ceiling that Haynes King does.
Now, see, that's where you're wrong, Alejo. I'm not worried about the physical tools. I mean, I look at too many pro quarterbacks that don't have the physical tools that you talk about. Tom Brady never had the physical tools. Peyton Manning never had the tools. But what they had was accuracy and a great head on their shoulders, and they knew how to get rid of the ball and where to put the ball, read a defense. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do those things, and if you're going too fast, if the game's moving too fast where you're like, it could be for Haynes King where you're too worried about running, you're not going to be able to get in there and make those kind of plays. And that's what we need is a quarterback that's going to read a defense. I mean, maybe they're not capable of doing that at this age. I'm not sure, but some of them are.
No, I agree. And it is definitely a mental game. But as we know, and as we've discussed before, Haynes King is one of those guys that's a gym rat, man. And he sits over there and is constantly working on the playbook. He was, when he's not in practice, he's practicing how to practice. I mean, that's his thing. He's a football guy. And so I also think that he takes, he's going to be competent in that sense. And Max Johnson is too, right? He's a NFL quarterback's son. The whole thing. He's got all those accolades as well.
See, I wish they would have had them in there on that national championship game. Where Jimbo was in there talking the whole time. If they would have had like a Haynes King in there, and he could have said what he kind of like Peyton Manning does on Monday Night Football. Where he could have gone, "Hey, this is what I'm seeing right now. This is what they should have done."
Propose that to ESPN for next year.
Yeah, I'm being serious. Have guys like that come out. NIL, shit, pay them. I don't give a shit.
All right, you said it before, but I fully agree. The quarterback is one piece to this offense. It will take a lot more than just the quarterback to have a successful offense. So let's get to some of the pieces around him and some of the battles around him. So let's start off at tight end. And Watermeyer's been the stud here for 3 years, man. He showed up as a freshman and he got thrown right in there, and he performed from day one. Maybe not as a blocker, but definitely in the passing game. And the guy that showed up with him was Baylor Cupp. And Baylor Cupp was supposed to be the guy. And he got hurt as a freshman, and the second-year guy, he got hurt. Last year, he was healthy. He played 10 games, but he didn't catch a single pass. There was no yards, but he was in 10 games. He got into the game. Now we've got 3 incoming freshmen. One of them's on campus, Jake Johnson, speaking of a Johnson, Max's younger brother there. The guy is a 6'5", 230-pound freak of an athlete. The other guy is Green, who's coming in the fall, and another freak of an athlete at 6'4", 235. Both of these guys are huge, huge weapons in the passing game. What do we think? Those 3 guys battling it out. Who's got the lead here? And who's going to end up being the starter in week number 1?
Well, I'll tell you what, Cup has had his chances, and I'd like to see him on the field and give him a chance. But the guy just I'd say let's give it to the new guy. Let's give one of the new guys a chance. And I'll tell you what, if Max Johnson's the starting quarterback, it'd be very surprising if it's the other Johnson in the tight end. But that's what I'm seeing right now. Cup, I'd love to see Cup out there. 6'7", 250, 60 pounds. The guy's physically, he's great, but you can't stay on the field.
Well, he's got 2 years on everybody else on campus, right? So he should have that advantage physically. Stroud, what do you think? This tight end matchup.
Well, I mean, based on what you decide on, which is experience, I would think Cup's going to get it because he's been there since, I think, 2018. So he should know the playbook pretty well. I think this is the key position that's got to be figured out. This is one of the biggest roles that plays in Jimbo's all of his offensive play calling. At times, Watermeyer was doing great last year. Other times, couldn't catch the ball. So this position that's got to come back. This is the most highly contested position. And it's the most important position that we don't know about. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Jake Johnson get out there. That's going to be more athletic and less injuries, definitely, than Cup. I would not be shocked at all to see him get the position. But like you said, man, we've got a lot of freshmen that are coming in that are kind of showing off, and they're following, what Watermeyer did last year to come in, what he did the year before that. But, Cup wasn't even the backup tight end last year. I mean, he couldn't even get in then, even when he was healthy. So I like to see Johnson. I think Johnson to Johnson would be a nice Aggie slogan that we can connect maybe 15 times next year and take us to an SEC championship.
Johnson and Johnson. Well, and you got to figure those two guys have thrown a pass or two to each other, right? I mean, so they probably have a little bit of a connection that is not available to anybody else on the team at this point in time. I wouldn't be, and Jake's here on campus and practicing now. It gives him a huge advantage over Green. But I like Green, and I think ultimately he'll get into the mix. I just think from the start of the season, you're probably a little bit behind the 8 ball with Johnson having had the spring, obviously, to learn the playbook and all those kinds of things, and then Cup, if he can get healthy. I don't think Cup ends up being the guy. I don't have any faith in him at this point. And obviously we didn't mention Max Wright, who I'm sure will be the blocking tight end as well. So another good competition, but in the spring, I expect to see a lot of Jake Johnson. Should be fun. Johnson and Johnson connection.
There you go.
There it is.
All right, so let's move on. Wide receivers, all right? And, we said earlier, Nia Smith is for sure one of your starters, but the other 2 spots are pretty much open for whoever takes it, right? And, let's sort of divide this up in those big receiver, big body guys, and then the others, right? And so, with the one group, you've got a guy like Chapman, who's a 6'5", 200-pound guy, man. He's been, a legend around A&M. What's the word I'm looking for? Not a legend, but like a legend, except not exactly true. What is that called?
I don't know.
Anyway, a myth.
Yeah,
He's like a myth, almost. He's like I don't know what he is exactly, but people love him. But he's basically had 2 big games in his entire career down here. He had the huge game against Florida 2 years ago, where he scored 2 touchdowns, I believe, had 2 huge plays over the middle. And so, that was sort of his coming out party. Other than that, he's pretty much been hurt. And he can't stay on the field. So, the question is, can he actually produce consistently? Or is a guy like Demond Demas, who came in as the all-world athlete, top receiver in the country, just the man. We talked about it earlier, running a 23-mile-per-hour sprint, and he's been clocked as in the 3.440 range, or 4.340 range. Sorry, so all those things, man. So between those 2 guys, Who do you expect to have the lead coming out of spring this year?
Well, we've been expecting Demas to do it for a couple of years now, and last year he finally got a little bit of playing time, made a little bit of catches here and there. But I still think it's Chapman's job to lose. He's when he's on the field, he's been exciting, electric. He stretches the defense. Demas does that too, but Chapman has better results as of right now, and against bigger names. But yeah, I mean, I like them both. I think between them two, and I mean, you got Price, you got a bunch of guys in there you can throw in. All these freshmen coming in. I mean, there's a lot of talent.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. Price, I think deserves to be in the mix. I think he's shown some things when he has been able to get on the field, mostly in the spring game and things like that. But and then Marshall coming in as freshman. Stroud, what do you think? Demas, Chapman, somebody else?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the amount of wide receivers that we have overall, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, much less what Corey said with bringing in the freshmen, it's one of the most talented group of receivers we've ever had. It's just a matter of finding a way to get the ball to them. If you're able to do that, find out if they're going to be able to catch it. A lot of issues with catching last year. Chapman was injured a lot. Chapman is going to be in the Aggie folklore history because of what he did against Florida, and he should be. He showed signs of it last year, but still couldn't stay healthy. Demas was in there, had plenty of options last year, only had one blowout play. I think it was first play against the game against, I can't remember who the team was we played, but it was 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown.
70-yard touchdown, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they both had moments. They both could have been starters all year long. I mean, it's a matter of who wants it more and who could stay healthy. I think Corey's right. I think Chapman's got the lead. He knows the playbook better. Demas is faster, seems to be a little more healthy. I think it's a good problem to have. You've got one versus the other, so my thing is keeping them healthy. But I think Chapman gives us the better opportunity with his size. He's been in more pressure, big pressure games, much less that Florida game was the turning game of the season that year. So my money right now would be on Chapman.
This is my thoughts, and I'll say this. Look, as I watched them last year, Demas, man, he could get open. I mean, the guy got open. He had some drop issues though, right? And you have to be able to catch the ball to play wide receiver. That's part of the gig. But the guy's the much better athlete. He's the much better, probably all around wide receiver. But he's got to put it all together. I think if Demas is not a starter by the end of the spring, he's pieced out. He's transferring somewhere that they're going to throw him the football. That's
Minnesota.
my take.
And honestly, I mean, it's fine. We have so much talent there. I mean, Demas he's got a lot of talent, but we have, I don't know how many other players right there with him. They're just as talented, more talented. I mean, I hate to see him go, but still, if he's not fitting in, go try to fit in somewhere else. We saw it happen to that kid in Minnesota. He had a good season.
Yeah, I'd hate to see him go because I think he's one of those special types of athletes, but sometimes they don't put it together in time,
But it's like we always said, you got to figure out a way to get your best players the ball, and Jumbo doesn't always do that. It drives me crazy. We talked about it before. You got guys like Demas, Achane, Smith that can do things in space. So figure out a way to get them the ball in space to make things happen. So, anyway,
the freshman Marshall, I don't think he gets on the field a ton, but the kid is special. And we talk about Evan Stewart all the time being a 5-star. I mean, Marshall was also a 5-star kid. He was the 3rd receiver in the country, in the rankings. So I mean, he's a big-time ball player, and if you watched any of that Under Armour game, him and Connor have a pretty good connection, so something to look forward to in the next couple of years as well. So let's look at the other wide receiver position, and man, there is a lot of bodies here. So Chase Lane, who got injured at some point last year, but he's been around for a couple of years, real good, team guy, lots of effort, all those things. You got Jalen Preston, who seems to have been here for like 6 years already. He's had some injury issues, but
I like him a lot.
He finally caught on, and he looked good last year. I thought he looked phenomenal towards the end of the year. And then a guy that I think I was super impressed with, Muhammad, right? When he got on the field last year, all of a sudden, man, he made huge, huge plays. So, I mean, those are just three of the guys. I mean, we don't know what's going on with Hez Jones, and there's a lot of other guys to bring into this conversation, as well as Evan Stewart, the freshman, who's all world. So, what do you guys think? What do you think about this wide receiver competition on the other side?
I mean, it's crazy. Preston, I was impressed with him last year at the spring game when we went to that and watched it. I thought he was running good routes. And then I guess it was the LSU game. He blew up a couple of touchdowns, a couple 100 yards. The guys, I mean, he's talented. That's another case of Jimbo just needs to figure out the way to get his playmakers the ball. And he's got them all over the place. And once he realizes what he has there, the wealth of talent he has, he's going to have a problem figuring out how to get them all the ball instead of trying to out-coach himself. I think that's what he falls in love with, is trying to out-coach himself. And you got the best players on the field. Just go beat them. We talk about the defense all the time, and I think he needs to figure that out on offense too. He's got the talent and the speed. Throw the ball deep. You can't keep up with him. It'll loosen up to underneath. I mean, you got to think about this, right?
Yeah, and Stroud, look, I mean, that Corey's point's exactly right? I mean, we need to see more of these four wide, especially with a tight end not being clearly established yet. Maybe we need to see more 4 wide receiver sets, maybe 5 wide receiver sets at times, and trying to get them the ball quickly, because there's plenty of guys to put on the field. What do you think, Stroud?
I mean, my selection out of this group is going to be Muhammad. He seems to me to be a little bit bigger version of Tyreek Hill without the speed. It's not as fast. He comes from great stock. Daddy was in the NFL. He finds ways to get involved in the plays. To see what he kind of did towards the end of last season reminds me of a lot of the previous season, where we see Octane go off and then he got noticed, and then he played key roles in last year's games. I think that's going to be the same for Muhammad. I'm not saying it's his job to lose, but he's definitely going to put a lot of pressure on people. He's definitely going to be all over Lane and Preston to get it. But my goal, if we had Muhammad out there, I'd say Muhammad, Smith, Demas, Chapman. I mean, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I think Chase Lane is losing his job in this one, because I don't think he gets on the field, honestly. Muhammad, we've talked about all these other guys having some drop issues. He's got incredible hands. That dude catches everything. If it's me, he's on the field. Now, the thing that Jimbo doesn't do, that I'd say, hey, if we're gonna get out there and run a bunch of routes and deep and everything, let's rotate some of these guys, man. Don't be afraid to put 3 in, 3 out, man. Let those guys be fresh. Lots of options. I think Moose is probably the guy that ends up winning that job. But Preston also gets some play there, and I'm not sure that ultimately Evan Stewart isn't so good that he can't get on the field. But I don't know where he's going to find the snaps. All right, so let's move into the offensive line, and I know not the sexiest of position battles, but probably the most important ones, to tell you the truth. I mean, we've got 3 guys back in Robinson, Foster, and Fothery. I think Fothery is going to end up moving to the left side at left tackle. Robinson's going to take one of the guard spots for sure. I wonder what happens with Foster if he stays at center, if he moves out to guard. But either way, there's 2 positions open, right? We're still missing a tackle, and we're still missing another inside lineman. Let's start with the tackle position. There's not a ton of options, but, we've got Zune, who's going to be a redshirt freshman coming in. You got Trainer, who was basically our number 1 off the bench this past year, right? And maybe you can add in a guy like Aki to slide out to tackle as well. He's probably got some of the tools to do so. But what do you guys think? Offensive tackle, who do you expect to take that job?
Go ahead, Josh.
I mean, I'm going to go with Trainer. I think with the time he had last year, with the experience that he got against some of these big SEC teams, that's going to be the guy that we need to put in there. I'd love to get Foster off of center, get him over to guard position personally. I don't know what we've got in. I mean, it's always been Matthews. It's never been able to get on the field. Obviously, that's not an option this year, but, we want to see what we can do. I think we're wasting some of Foster's talent by keeping him there at center. And that was a hell of a thing to ask a true freshman to come in there and play center in the SEC. I think he did as good a job as he could have done, but I think he would have been just as good as Father and these other guys if he'd have been out at guard the whole season. I'm going to go with Trainer. It's got to be Trainer. We need one of these guys to step up that's been there and prove their worth. You can't just keep putting in freshmen. I mean, I guess we will if we have to, and at some point they all will be experienced. Maybe we'll have another Maroon Goon situation, but that won't be for another couple of years, and then we're in the same situation we are now. So I'm going to go with Trainer to win this position.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Trainer. I mean, I thought he played pretty well when he got on the field last year. I thought he was a little bit better at guard last year than he was at tackle, but he's a competitor, man. He goes all out, and I do. The best game we played all year as an offensive line was against Alabama, and he was playing left guard, and Kenyon Green was at left tackle, right? He helped Foster more than Kenyon did, and solidified the interior better. So I like Trainer, and I think he's probably on the field, whether it's at that tackle spot or that guard spot, depending which one they need him at. But I agree, his experience is invaluable. Trey Zune, though, is a big dude. I mean, the guy's 6'6", 320. 6'6", man. And, highly rated coming out of high school. And I know Trainer's a big guy, but, he's probably at least getting a look, don't you think?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Corey, what do you think?
Honestly, I don't think we can be nearly as bad as we were last year on the offensive line. All the guys we have coming back that did get some playing time is going to be a plus. We recruited decently the last few years, so those guys have got to be getting experience, getting time. So we have got to get better. It's got to be like that. I don't know, was it 2 years ago? And the offensive line did just out of nowhere. We're like, oh wow, that's amazing what they did when they were opening holes in the running game. They were pass blocking. So, I mean, that's my whole thing. I don't really care who it is in there. I mean, we lose Green. He was great. I don't care what people say about his last year. I mean, they put him all over the field. The guys, I mean, he's still amazing. That guy Johnson that we got in from Tennessee, he was okay. He did all right. Yeah. But I think these guys being in there for another year, they got to get better. It didn't matter who it is; just have to.
And look, with the new offensive line coach Adazio, there is a chance that he moves some positions, moves some guys around. Maybe he does shift Foster over to guard. I mean, we'll find out a lot here during the spring pretty quickly what they think about that situation. At the guard spot, like I mentioned Aki earlier, but he started the first 4 games last year and then ended up losing his job. But you also got other folks, Bankhead, and then Wyckoff, who could also compete at the center spot. I thought Wyckoff did a pretty good job last year in the spring as a freshman, playing a lot of center. One of these guys is bound to take the reins on that position, right? I was impressed with Aki's physicalness last year, but he ended up having some issues and didn't perform as well. But he's got the tools, right? These other guys, maybe a little bit less highly rated, but maybe they've got something. They work better together, whatever it is. One of these guys has to step up, don't you think?
Honestly, they all have to step up. I don't think just one of them. I think it's all of them. I mean, I can't get over how bad we were last year. Coaching has to get better. Everything has to get better. It's just I'm frustrated with the whole offensive line last year. I think it killed our team, killed our chances. We lost games because of them. Everybody talked about our quarterback play. I mean, hell, we lost our quarterback because of our offensive line. Go ahead.
No, so look, if you ask me, Trainer's one of those guys. I think he's in the game, and then the question is whether Zune wins the right tackle spot or not. If he does, Trainer moves into guard. If he doesn't, Trainer takes the tackle spot, and a guy like Aki probably takes the guard spot. I think those are the guys that I'm looking at to win those jobs. With the question mark being if Foster slides out, then Wyckoff maybe slides in at center. So, there's some options. I expect that offensive line to be a lot better this year than it was last year. A lot, significantly. And sort of last position battle here, backup running back. We know what A-Chain's going to get the majority of the carries, but, they're going to split carries like they did this year. And so we've got guys, a good group of guys, Amari Daniels, LJ Johnson, Le'Veon Moss. Crownover is also in the mix, but I think they're going to use him more as maybe the fullback in the group. What do you guys think? Amari Daniels, LJ Johnson, the freshman, Le'Veon Moss. Who's getting the majority of those carries?
Honestly, I mean, I'm not sure. I've watched very little of all these players. Most of it, what I know about them is the hype. I guess it was Johnson last year against Prairie View. I mean, it was impressive against Prairie View, but
Right.
Our offensive line was impressive against Prairie View. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's not saying a whole lot, but I mean, no matter what you say, there's talent everywhere. I mean, when Spiller came in, I wasn't expecting Spiller to be as good as he was, and the guy was amazing. Achane, same thing, just amazing. And I think what we have in the backfield is amazing. I watched guys playing on other teams that were Aggies last year that were amazing. They transferred. I think it was Florida State and maybe Syracuse. I can't remember what schools they were playing for, but man, it's like these guys were Aggies. They were our third and fourth strings, and they're starting at Florida State. I mean, that tells you something right there. So no matter who's in this backfield, they have talent. They're good. LJ Johnson gets my nod if you're giving me something because he got playing time against Prairie View last year.
Yeah, so did Amari. But Stroud, look, LJ was the higher rated guy coming out of high school. He was the big time recruit. But when I saw the two play and get touches on the field, which they didn't get a ton last year, right? I mean, Amari 20 total carries last year, and I think LJ had 21 total carries. So when they got touches last year, I thought Amari was the more explosive guy, the guy with the better vision, that kind of thing. What do you think, Stroud?
Well, I'll say with A&M, we're always deep at the running back. So I'm kind of like Corey, where it doesn't matter who's back there. The next guy seems to always step up. With Trevion Williams, I mean, it's just guy after guy. You just forget how good they were because the next guy steps up. But I agree with Corey on this. I think it's going to be Johnson. I like the way Johnson looks on the field. I think he plays better in Jimbo's system with the receiving capabilities. But Jimbo talks a lot about Moss, and I think he's going to find a way to get Moss involved in this. Johnson better take true advantage of his opportunities when he gets in there because I think Jimbo is going to – he sees weapons, and I think he gets really excited to think he's got Smith, Moss, and Achane all at the field at the same time. I think he's just giddy to try some of these new trick plays that he's putting together with those guys. It could be Moss ends up getting that second.
I haven't seen Jimbo run one trick play since he's been at A&M, but I like your thinking, though.
Josh just said something that my running back 2 might actually be Aniyah Smith. He might be my RB2. And
great point.
And what he was saying about Moss, I think I've heard rumors about Moss being the next Aniyah, to where you can't keep him off the field. I mean, he's just that talented.
Yeah, and a guy that we didn't mention in the receiver group, but Keith Brown has sort of been compared to Aniyah as well. And he's been, everybody talks about how explosive he is in practice and all that stuff. He hadn't gotten on the field yet, but we got to see where guys like that also fit in. It's exciting to have that problem, though.
That's what I'm saying. We have so much talent. Jimbo overthinks it. And I think that's as good as he's recruited. He's got to coach better. He's got to put this talent to work. If not, it's just going to be a waste. And
the offensive game plan definitely needs to improve. So, all right, look, it's amazing how many different names we just went through here, just on offense, man, that have a chance to get on the field, that have a chance to make plays, that are big time recruits and players that came in throughout the years. I mean, it's exciting for a program to have those kind of options. And in reality now, all they got to do is put it all together. And I know that that's a lot easier said than done, but it should bring some excitement to the program, and it should bring some excitement for the 2022 season, not the 23 or 24, but the 22 season. I want to see some winning. That's what I want to see. I want to compete for a conference championship. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
All right, questions from the tailgate brought to you by Frida Custom Homes at Building Aggie Dreams. All right, so first question. This time last year, there were 4 Aggies that were expected to be in the first and second round sort of conversation in the NFL draft. Green, Leal, Weidemeyer, Spiller, right? Everybody sort of thought that those guys were going to be in that mix. Are there any potential first or second round draft picks for the 23 draft? What do you think, Corey?
I'm thinking right now. I mean, Anias. I don't know if he'd be a first or second round pick, just because of his position, his size. Achane, the same thing. I think they're more of a maybe a day 2, like a 3rd to 5th round type picks if they come out. Offensive line, I don't see anybody on there that stands out. Wide receivers, there's a lot of talent. Nothing. It'd have to be on the defensive side of the ball. And, I mean, we go back to McKinley Jackson, maybe, if he dominates in the defensive interior or our secondary.
Todd, what are your thoughts? Anybody that you think may make that push?
Antonio
I
Johnson.
don't see anybody on offense unless Octane just has a crazy season where he gets enough touches to put the stats up that he needs. But I think Corey's right. It's going to be on that defensive line side that's going to have the best chance to be up there.
Yeah, I'll say this. I agree with you because, I do think maybe Anias is more of a 3rd round guy, right, at best, right, his size. Even though his versatility, could make him kind of like the guy out of Purdue last year, that I think he was kind of a 2nd round type pick, and a couple of those other smaller receivers that ended up coming out. But he'd have to have a monster year to accomplish that. I do think Achane's got a chance to be a 2nd rounder. Tailbacks don't go in the 1st round, but if he has a big year behind a better offensive line, the guy's got the athleticism and the tools to be that kind of player, I think. I don't know if he gets there, but that would be the one offensive player that I think has a chance. I think Antonio Johnson ends up being a 1st rounder.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. Elko just this week actually was talking about some of his former players and complimented Antonio Johnson. He said he's one of the best players he's ever been around. And he expects this coming year to be even bigger for Antonio Johnson. He could not stop raving about how big of a playmaker this guy is, and that he would have been even better if he hadn't been here during the COVID season and with all that mess going on where, there was some limitations to everything. So I think Antonio Johnson's got a chance to be a 1st rounder. And PFF, by the way, graded him out as the number 1 safety in the country. Number 1 safety in the country returning. So pretty impressive. If I had to bet, that's the guy I'd bet on. All right, so aside from Bryce Young, who won the Heisman last year, what other SEC quarterbacks could make it to New York for the Heisman ceremony? Any thoughts? Stroud, what do you think?
I mean, I'd go with Will Rogers. I think Leach is going to be on a hot seat. The way the SEC turns it through its coaches, I think Leach is going to put some new stuff into the plays this year. Rogers has the ability to put up some crazy numbers, which is what you're going to have to get to that Heisman. A lot of people talking about Rattler, but there's just no way. I mean, he couldn't deal with the pressure he had at Oklahoma. The pressure around the rest of the SEC is worse than what you're going to see at Oklahoma. I don't expect really anybody else to really have a shot against really Rogers getting in, except for maybe Johnson.
Okay, Johnson won't even start for the Aggies, so that's not happening. Go ahead, Corey.
I know, Josh. No, I mean, I like Rattler. I mean, I thought he was talented as hell going into Oklahoma. I watched him his freshman year. The only problem he has is South Carolina didn't have a lot of talent to get the ball to. The same problem Mississippi State's going to have. Rogers will throw the ball 100 times a game, but, I mean, you don't have a lot of people to throw it to. Same problems a lot of these teams. I mean, there's a lot of quarterback talent. That kid from Georgia, he's a game manager. He's not going to win the Heisman.
Bennett just won himself a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he won a national championship. He's not going to win a Heisman, though. No. But if you're talking Heisman, I mean, anybody that plays for Lane Kiffin's going to probably have a chance. He's going to be dynamic. He's going to give them chances to score touchdowns. But that's about all I got.
How about Jefferson out in Arkansas? I mean, that guy, if he's healthy, I mean, he's has about as big a time a weapon as anybody at the quarterback position. if he can stay that way, right? If he can stay
No,
healthy.
he's healthy. I mean, yeah, he's good. It's just the scheme. A lot of this stuff goes with schemes. They're going to run the ball a lot in Arkansas. He's not going to get the chance to put up the stats. It's all about stats when you come to the Heisman now. That's what sucks about it. It's not.
So if you want to talk scheme, how about Hayden Hooker at Tennessee, where you know they're going to let him play?
Yeah, that's a good one too. I like that. And it's really impressive what Tennessee did last year after losing half their team to transfers. I can't believe they put up those kind of numbers last year.
They can put up points, but they ain't going to stop a lot of folks. I'll say that. Exciting football. The good thing is, and maybe not good for the Aggies generally, but there's a lot of good quality quarterbacks in the SEC coming into this year, where last year, there was a ton of question marks, right? I mean, but there's some guys that are going to be productive quarterbacks in this league in 2022. It should be a pretty exciting year and competitive year because of the quarterback play. Don't you guys think?
Well, you say that, but last year, how many quarterbacks really beat the Aggies? I mean, actually came out there and beat the Aggies. I mean, Matt Corral really didn't beat us. We beat ourselves in that Ole Miss game. After the first half.
No, that's what I'm saying. Last year, there wasn't a lot of for sure things going into the season last year, right?
And I think we're going to have the same thing this year. I think our defense will be ramped up, and this quarterback, it doesn't matter, give a damn. It's all about us going out there beating people. It's not about them beating us. We're beating ourselves. If we get that offensive line fixed, we're good.
Love it. Stroud, any last words?
I'm looking forward to that rematch with Ole Miss. That's going to be a good one this year with all the shit talking going on.
There's no doubt. All right, next week we'll focus in on some defense, fellas. Gig 'em, Aggies. AP signing out from the tailgate.
Adios, amigos.
Ooh.